I've had people sharing my YouTube channel on other YouTube channels where I've been being interviewed to share my story and talk about what I did and how I turned a single dime into $100,000. And every time someone would say, "Oh, I'm going to share a YouTube channel," or "What is your YouTube channel?" I'd get really embarrassed because I had just a few videos on there. They're not very great videos. They were the vertical periscope style instead of the widescreen, and I really hadn't thought through them very much. And so I am now, by obligation and by pressure and embarrassment, I am going to put my first official YouTube video on my YouTube channel. My name is Seth. I like to say Seth Keeping It Real, because I really like to stay raw and honest. And on this channel, my goal is to share the highs and the lows of what I went through when I started with a single dime, and I turned that into $100,000. Now, here's what a lot of people don't realize at first. If you take a dime and you double it to 20 cents, and then double it to 40 cents, and then to 80, and then $1.60, and so forth, you only have to do that 20 times, and it becomes $100,000. And I was broke. There was strain in my marriage as a result of just my identity, just really struggling with being broke. I was $24,000 in debt, even though I worked for the richest company in the world, Apple, at that time. And I felt I wasn't getting paid enough. I was stressed out. I was always tied to this office in my house, and I was always having to do everything I was told to do. And when I made suggestions, oftentimes they were shot down. And so I got to a point where I just couldn't stand spending my life, a majority of my life, building someone else's vision. And I thought, you know what? Why don't I just go out on my own and start figuring out how to make my own money? I'll never forget the day when I worked for Apple in Apple sales for the online store department. And I made more money for Apple in one day than I was paid an entire year. And I just want you to know, this is not a rag on Apple. Apple as a company, in my opinion, is one of the greatest companies ever built. What I didn't like, though, was the corporocracy that I began to see as the company grew. Especially when I moved to the department, the support department, I just found there were so many levels of people to go through to have any kind of level of influence to help make things better. And I began spending more time protecting the company from lawsuits to make sure all the paperwork was there. And I get that. People want to sue Apple. They have a lot of money. But I wasn't coaching people anymore. And that's what I loved to do. And so finally I said, I'm just going to go out. And so I literally walked out of my house with the dime. And I started walking around and talking to people and saying, hey, I work for a company. Someday I'd like to actually pay off my $24,000 in debt. I like to pay off my house. If I double this just a few times, it becomes a huge amount of money. Would you help me? And most people say, sure, I'll double it. And so I doubled my dime to 20 cents. And then I doubled it to 40 cents. And I put these on video. I can show them to you. And I kept doing this until I got all the way up to $400. And then I took that money and I purchased some inventory and began to use that to start selling stuff on eBay. And some things sold really well and some didn't. And I remember one day I spent the entire day just researching as hard as I could. How do I find out what's selling well? Because there's some people out there literally making millions, and I wanted to learn how to do it. And then I began to learn about Amazon. And I walked through my house and I thought, I got tons of books from school. I have over 1,000 books. I'm just going to sell them all. And ended up selling half of them. And that was a pretty decent profit. And then I walked into my garage and I thought, me, this, American, always have this stuff that we don't need. What could I get rid of? And so I started selling everything I didn't need and I didn't use. And I really started just changing the way I live. And I took a dime and I glued it to the wall of my garage as a reminder. Because someday I wanted to be able to say, look, see this dime? Even if that is all you have, just a single dime, don't underestimate it. A dime has incredible value. I might think, oh, it's just a dime, use it as a tip at Starbucks or to pay for, that $17 drink at Starbucks with 400 adjectives. But a dime actually has incredible potential. Now, let me tell you why. First of all, it's 10 cents. It's not 1 cent, it's 10 cents. I know I sound like I'm being a little facetious here, but bear with me. It is the smallest coin for its value. It is the most valuable coin for its size. A dime is really small, smallest American coin we have, and yet it is incredibly valuable. And if I just double it 20 times, that dime has turned into $100,000. One of my ventures was to start a vape store. I called a whole bunch of suppliers and I said, what's selling best? What's selling best? And some weren't very cooperative and some were. Some really wanted to help me out and some were like suspicious, like, who is this guy? I just started calling them. I called over 300 suppliers. And the number one thing they kept saying was selling was vapes. So I started investigating, what is a vape? And I used to smoke a pipe at that time. And I learned that, oh, this is a healthy alternative to smoking a regular cigarette or a regular pipe. I got interested. And so I built an online store. Completely failed. I ended up losing money on that. Almost broke even, ended up losing money, sold it for an embarrassing low price, but I began to learn something. I have to differentiate myself. There has to be something different about what I'm doing that is of value to people. So if someone goes online and they see 100 different vape stores, why in the world would they buy from mine? I need to give them a reason. And so that was one of the most incredibly helpful but discouraging experiences I ever endured. But the moment I knew this is what I was designed to do, this is what I was called to do, is when I kept going. And so I did. I kept going. I kept going. And finally I got to the $100,000 that I wanted to. So I could someday say, hey, even if you just have a dime, that's okay. You can build a company. Not just a company. It doesn't even have to be a company. But you can build passive income streams off of this so that you are making money while you sleep. Just a few days ago, I was able to drop what I was doing, take the family to Dave & Buster's here in Austin, Texas, and just enjoy the day. I didn't have to worry about, oh shoot, oh no, my vacation time's being used up. I mean, sometimes I felt like, working for a company like, oh, I only got this much vacation time left. Could you please put a little more in my cup? Please, just a little more in my cup. I felt like that, like I'm just so dependent on what are they going to give me? And so dependent on what my boss said about me and allowing that to affect how I feel about myself. And I began to realize I don't have to live like that. It's risky, yes, but there's something else I can do with my life. And it's not just about the money. It's about taking something and building something. It's about creating margin for myself and my family. I do not want to come across as one of those guys who, he's got this super cool sports car and, hey, yeah, I'm rich, I'm successful, learn from me. I drive a freaking minivan, and I love my minivan. It is badass. I love a minivan. Why? It's practical. It's what I need. The goal here is to help people create margin so they don't feel handcuffed to their job, and they're always dreaming about, man, I'd love someday to start that art or that painting. I'd love to start that online store. I'd love to go visit New Zealand someday. Instead of dreaming, why not do it? And there's a way that can be done. So after I reached that 100,000 point, after I had several investment properties that I rented out, after I had income coming in through Amazon and eBay and selling stores and other things, I thought, you know what? Maybe I can help people with this. And before I even did it, people started reaching out to me and saying, hey, could you help me? Could you show me what you do? And my time got filled up really fast, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh shoot, I'm back to where I started. I really don't have any more margin left. And so that's what I'm going to do here. Is I want these videos to be a place where I'm really raw, really honest, just totally open about the good and the bad, and share with you what I'm learning and any tips that can help you along the way. And it doesn't have to be from a dime to 100,000, but for me, that's a concept. It's symbolic, and I'll forever remember the dime as a symbol of what you can do, starting with something tiny, and if you stay devoted and faithful to keep on going, it'll eventually pay you back. Because money is not the end goal, it is simply a tool. The end goal, for me, is relationship and people. That's what I value the most. So again, my name is Seth. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. My goal on this channel is to provide something of value that will help you. And if you have questions, comment below. My commitment is within 24 hours to respond to those questions. Subscribe to my channel. I will turn around and subscribe to yours. I don't want this to sound like one of those cheap Twitter tactics where you subscribe to me, I subscribe to you. We really don't even care about each other, right? If you really do have something you want to share with the world, I will listen. And I would love to share this with the world. So subscribe. Just push that button right down wherever it is. And if there's any way I can specifically help you, reach out to me. I would love to do that. Again, my name is Seth. Seth Keeping It Real, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I have tons more stuff I can't wait to share with the world. See ya.